Mm-mm.
So Hamza, as you've just seen, the Israelis have announced that they bombed yet another country, um, a nation acting with impunity, and they strike possibly the most neutral country in the Middle East when it comes to diplomatic relations in Qatar. This is a
And
country that,
aren't they the ones that have been conducting the peace talks?
yeah, exactly. This is a nation that has been conducting the peace talks. They obviously hold Hamas delegations on the request of America. They also have an American military base, the largest one in the Middle East there. Um, and to be honest, this is the first time that Israel has genuinely shocked me with their actions. Um, Previously, they've struck nations that we've known that they've actively been hostile with. Um, is this something that you expected to see from them?
No, I also don't understand why they've done this. It just seems to be Israel acting time and time again without no repercussions. And I feel like this time could be potentially different depending on how the international world reacts, like how the global leaders react to this particular bombing. They say they have their particular conditions of this as a potential assassination attempt, but for what reason?
Yeah,
I don't know.
and for weeks now, for months, for potentially even more than 18 months, it's been very clear that um, there's been willingness from Hamas to accept ceasefire conditions, and even most recently accept really absurd ceasefire conditions, one that are really unfavorable to the people of Gaza. Yet Israel continues to ignore them, reject them, and now it seems they want to further escalate by violating the integrity of the nation who are carrying out those negotiations.
I mean, to me, it just doesn't really make sense. Like you, like I'm actually surprised and shocked when I first saw those images and the videos because it's literally just before we started recording. I was confused as to where this country was. Like you, it's not Syria, a country that they've had history with hostility. It's not Iran. It's it just probably to me, I feel like the Israeli military, the Zionist state is running out of things to do, and they're trying to sort of antagonize and to really push the limits where they can potentially see what will happen.
Yeah, there's absolute gross violation of all laws, and it's a further escalation as far as I can tell. And during this period, we now see that the British government are going to be meeting with Isaac Herzog, who has made a number of genocidal statements already since October the 7th. Um, and he is now going to be welcomed into this country. Coincidentally, the day before, i.e., yesterday, the government releases a statement, and the official position saying they do not believe Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. Um, and when I was talking to you about this before, the quote that sprang to mind was the very famous quote from George Orwell, about they ask you to deny the evidence of your eyes and ears, right? I don't need an international body. Every international body, all genocide, vast majority of genocide scholars will tell you this. I don't need them to see what is right in front of my eyes and ears. You can see everyday children being blown to bits, into smithereens. You can see official death counts of 60,000 now. That being the low end. This does not include children who are and men and women who died of starvation. This does not include people who are buried under rubble. These do not include people who are unaccounted for. This is a country so intent on genocide that they have come out and described genocide time and time again from October the 8th onwards. These guys have described that genocidal attempt continuously, repeatedly, with vigor, with clear intent. And only those who are willingly blind, only those who willingly support a genocide are going to turn their eyes to this. And unfortunately, that's the situation we find ourselves in. It's absolutely diabolical, absolutely shocking, and this is a stain on the history of Britain. Right? We could have been like Spain. We could have even been a bit more like France. We could have stood up and said, no more. We will not support this any longer. We will not stand by as they continue to violate international norms. We will not stand by as they continue to use our resources, our intelligence, our military capability to destroy another nation, to destroy another people. But instead, we've stood by, we provide cover after cover after cover. And David Lammy, every so often, will come out and say, "Oh, this is really sad. I'm really sad that something has happened." Mr. Lammy, I don't care if you're sad. I want you to do something. Please do something. Isaac Herzog is here. Do something. Now you can go to him, turn around and say, "You either stop or we're doing a complete arms embargo now. There's no today, tomorrow. I'm implementing the arms embargo now." But you won't, because you guys do not serve ordinary people. You do not serve the people of Britain. You serve the interests of the elite. You serve the interests of the 1%, and you serve the interests of the American state, right? Who are supporting Israel as they commit this genocide. And that's why you're doing it, because you're too scared to stand up to America, and you're too scared to stand up to Israel, because you're too scared to either be called an anti-Semite, or you're too scared to annoy Donald Trump, who's supporting this absolutely disgusting massacre of people day on day. Apologies for the little rant, but it is getting incredibly frustrating now that this is what we're seeing every single day. Israel breaking a new law.
It is frustrating, and it's also even more frustrating that the government continues to roll out the red carpet for these Zionist individuals, welcomes them, takes their funding, takes their word for it, and acts as mouthpieces. And I think you see other countries, rightfully or wrongfully, now coming out to sanction the Israeli state, to sanction individuals, to cut ties, to really be talking about the genocide that's going on. And you can see the British government not doing anything. They're just, as you said, being the mouthpieces for these individuals.
Yeah,
With
well,
what you've just put up on the screen, Shabana Mahmood, the new Secretary State of, like, the Home Secretary, I cannot fathom how they sleep at night and what they tell themselves and what comfort that they give themselves to excuse time and time again blatant genocide that's really happening in front of our eyes. Like, you have to be cold, hard, and dead to not be shaken by what you are seeing, and to excuse it at every turn, to not take the word of Amnesty, to not take the word of the Human Rights Watch, to not take the word of credible academics, and just say, no, this is not a genocide. When I genuinely thought it was April Fool's when I saw David Lammy's letter, his final act as Foreign Secretary, and that's what he does. Honestly, I cannot wait for the day that they are tried at the Hague.
yeah. And we say they're doing nothing. They are doing something, right? They're doing this. They're arresting individuals who protested, right? Shabana Mahmoud became an MP, I think about 10, 15 years ago, right? Shabana Mahmoud is a very famous, before she became um, before she became an MP, and before she started her political journey, she was very known to be a pro-Palestine activist. Not only that, during her time as MP, when David Cameron was Prime Minister, she helped lead a sit-in at Sainsbury's, I believe, a form of direct action due to Sainsbury's complicity and relationship with Israel at the time. So she is not someone who has opposed direct action, but it's very clear, right, that this woman has become, she's worked herself through the ranks. She has now gone into one of the great offices of the British state, right? Arguably the one of the foremost influential individuals in British politics. And her first act she oversaw was the arrest of over 800 people for defending the right of direct action. I'm sorry, I'm really angry today and I'm really ranty, but this is incredibly pathetic. Incredibly pathetic. Shabana Mahmood represents Birmingham Ladywood. Birmingham Ladywood is incredibly pro-Palestine. I encourage anyone to walk through Birmingham Ladywood and see the amount of Palestine flags that are up around that area, right? To see the amount of people who are angry at Shabana Mahmood for her cowardly behavior, right? I want her to go and speak to her constituents and justify to her constituents her actions of arresting over 800 people. We were told in October, no, in November 2023, when the famous ceasefire votes happened, right? When Muslim Vote first had their conversations about starting, we were told at that time that you have to allow these politicians to be pragmatic because when they get in power, they can make a difference. Is this the difference you want to make? Is this the difference you want to make? Arresting disabled men who are in their wheelchairs, arresting children of Holocaust survivors, arresting people in their 80s and their 90s for defending civil liberties in this country. Is this the reputation that you want to leave? Right? I'm sick and tired of this kind of identity politics where we have to say, oh, Shabana Mahmoud, a Muslim woman in power. I do not care. I do not care anymore. I care that you represent values. I care that you represent the British people. You're in government, no arms embargo, right? A small arms embargo. You've prescribed Palestine action, even a move that the Conservative government did not make. You've um, you've had a prime minister who's echoed the words of the rivers of blood speech. Now you prescribed, and now you've overseen the arrest of over 1,000, potentially 2,000 individuals for supporting a group that does direct action. No terrorism, no killing of individuals, not even harming of individuals, but a group that looks to expose your role in this genocide. And you're telling them, you're telling me, you're telling us, and how we should support the Palestinian people. You know how to support the Palestinian people because you've done it before. You led sit-ins. You were speaking at sit-ins. You called out David Cameron. But when someone else is in power, you're more than comfortable to do it. But when you're in power and you have the chance to make a difference, now you cower down. Now you're working within that system to suppress those who want to call out that genocide. And I am so angry because I had so many conversations with people at the time who were like, you have to let her, you have to let these Muslim MPs do this because they're being pragmatic and these Muslim MPs will be good for Muslim people. I do not care if you're Muslim. I do not care if you're Muslim MP. I don't care if you're Christian, black, white, blue. I care that you represent the interests of the British people. I care that you represent the values that we hold dear. And Britain is a country that values free speech. Britain is a country that values direct action. Just look at our history. And most importantly, humans value human life. And as a human, if you cannot stand up against a genocide with your mouth, then at least let those who are brave enough to do so do it. And if you're so cowardly like Shabana Mahmoud to take that position and instead of leaving them be, arresting them and overseeing that arrest so proudly with the Met Office, then with the Met Office, sorry, with the Met Police, then you deserve nothing but shame. You deserve nothing but public anger, and you deserve people holding you accountable. And I cannot wait until the next general election. Well, there will be a candidate. I don't know which candidate, whether it'll be from the Green Party, from your party, a candidate better than Shabana Mahmoud, who will come and oust her from power. And I cannot wait for that day. And I will be there and I'll be cheering and I'll be so happy. And the Palestinian people will be happy because that is what she deserves. And again, sorry for my second rant, but this is getting
No, it's
totally
around that. It's around that's
unacceptable.
needed. It's around that it's needed because I was reading some stats, especially around Ladywood and knowing Shawana Mahmood is the MP for that area, and as because you can tell the constituency and how well an MP cares about their constituency. Ladywood's child poverty rate is the highest in the UK, according to like End Child Poverty, and the area's one is one of the most deprived in Birmingham. And so for me, my idea is if she is now Home Secretary and one of the most highest cabinet officials, where is her care for her constituents? She would be funneling money and funds and like actual effort back into her constituency, making sure that her constituents get the healthcare, the relevant needs, but none of that. All we're seeing is just pandering. So for me specifically, like I generally feel you. Like I do not care what the ethnicity or religion or whatever the MP has in terms of a background, as long as they serve their constituents and they serve the British public. And clearly, Shabana Mahmood is doing neither, nor on foreign policy, nor on the ground. She's just a sellout, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And yeah, she's definitely sold out the people she represents. Uh, Tell you what, Shabana Mahmoud, I'll give you a very simple suggestion. All right, if you want to carry on arresting people for peaceful protests, be my guest. Go tomorrow, go to Keir Starmer and say, "So Keir Starmer, my constituents have the highest rate of child poverty in the whole nation. Can we please scrap the two-child benefit cap?" Tell you what, it's nice and simple request. All right,
Hmm.
scrap the child benefit cap. Right, allow children to eat. It's not their fault that their parents have made what you deem to be bad choices. Right, if that's what you believe, then please be my guest and at least try and do that. All right, or come up with a better plan to build council housing all across the UK, across Birmingham, across London, across the north, across the Midlands, Scotland and Wales as well. Come up with a new plan. Maybe scrap the law of Margaret Thatcher of right to buy, right, so that the council can own stock and invest in stock for long term. Um, Change our system of adult social care so that it goes back into central government and local councils are left with the burden of providing all those services and taking all the money out of their system, so that they can't provide decent waste management services and services that are urgent to the area. These simple things that you, Shubhana Mahmood, now have the power to do. Right? We were told we should wait for you to get into power. We were told to wait for you, for the likes of Afzal Khan, for other Muslim Labour MPs to get into power. Well, here's your opportunity, Shubhana Mahmood. I can't remember of a person who's a practicing Muslim being in such high power in our lifetime. And if this is the argument that people made to me, and to be honest, I never bought the argument, but if this is the argument that has been made to us, then show us that you can make a difference. And I'm willing to wait and see. But right now, I'm really appalled by the start she's made.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just another conservative government disguised in red for me.
yeah, exactly. And on that notion, right, we need a kind of new movement, a new party, a different way of doing politics, and I think we've potentially found it. Some of you may have seen my recent video on the new um, Green Party leader, and he's not be there for a time. He's an articulate, a charismatic individual from the left who's able to go into mainstream media, express himself, and make a difference. And now we have Zach Polanski, the new leader of the Green Party, right? A beautifully charismatic individual, someone who has come up with a very clear vision, who has a very clear idea. Uh, Reminds me shades of Zoran Mamdani in New York, and I think he's going to be really good for the people of Britain. What has your response been to his, very energetic first week?
I mean, it's very pragmatic. He definitely knows how to speak and how to get his point across. But I think one thing that really struck me is he cares. He cares. He cares about the British public. He cares about the issues that we're going through. He cares about the community, and it's just not all talk. He's been on the ground. He knows what is really affecting individuals, and he's not afraid to sort of sideline or even question certain individuals. So, for example, like I think there's a video that I saw that he was in uh, Nigel Farage's constituency. Yeah, this one exactly, where he was having a conversation with them. That's how you speak to constituents. That's how you engage with individuals who have been left behind, who are facing issues, who need to be what is not consoled. They're not 5 years old, but to be told what difference their voting can make, what the impact on them is when they have MPs like Nigel Farage just talking but not really doing and acting to change their lives. But in fact, just what is it called? Is it catch 22 when you say one thing and you do another, whatever the term is? But I think for me, I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Greens under Zach and what changes they're able to make and the wins that they can continue to do.
Yeah, and I also want to give a huge shout out to Mohsin Ali, the Muslim Greens, and that network who have done some great work. They supported Zach, and they also supported Mohsin too. leadership as the new a co-deputy leader of the Green Party. For those of you who won't know, Martin Ali was obviously very famously involved in the riots that took place in his area. I think in Leeds last year, and he was there like literally like one man
Mm.
band at the front lines, pushing people back, stopping his area from literally burning down at times it seemed. And instead of being praised for that, as he should have been, he was under a tirade of Islamophobic attacks, accusing him of instigating, etc. But Mathin has also now also an influencer, a gardening influencer. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if you know that, Hamda. You can see his influencing. You can see his videos on gardening on YouTube. And again, he's another individual who's focused on the issues. Right. This is not someone who's gonna go around saying, "I'm Muslim, vote for me," or
Yeah.
"I'm X, vote for me." This is a man who's focused on the issues, and that's what really impresses me about Mathin. And really, I want to see the Green Party go forward. I want to see an alliance between any new party and the Green Party to make sure that they're able to win as many seats as possible. But I'm really happy to see Zach Plenty because he's one of the only individuals who has constantly and consistently talked about a real plan to challenge income inequality in this country. Right, the
Mm.
housing crisis and income inequality are the two most pressing domestic issues in this country by far. And people always, think of this as some like lefty jargon, like, oh, as long as people can get by, it doesn't income inequality doesn't matter. Income inequality matters for a few very like important reasons. Number one, and I think this is the one that people really never talk about, right? Is that income inequality leads to power disparity. We've seen this in America. You've seen this like Donald Trump recently had like six or eight of the top firms around here, like Google, Apple, Microsoft, etc. The thing is, when you have a few individuals who have a lot of power, these individuals are able to dictate policy at a rate that should not be allowed because these individuals hold thousands of jobs in their hands. They're able to use millions and hundreds of millions of pounds in some cases to influence government policy, and they're able to, tie up the legal system in really expensive cases, which means that they can't be held accountable. They're able to influence parliamentary elections, which means that those in power are beholden to them. And really, sadly, like even those who want to challenge them are unable to do so, as we've seen by Jeremy Corbyn, because they can, they have access to controlling aspects of the media, and also they can tank the stock market. They can ruin your ability for your like future your parents and grandparents to have suitable pension funds, etc. So these people hold too much power in the system. That's really number one, right? And that's kind of a philosophical problem, but it's a problem that really goes untalked about. But number two, we are hurtling towards, and I said this in our last episode as well, we are hurtling towards becoming countries like India and Hamza, you're from Somalia, Pakistan, Nigeria, Bangladesh, whatever it might be, right? These nations where income inequality is so high that real life, there is no middle class. There are no people who can aspire. There's only the super wealthy, and then there's the working class. And if we want to go back to that as a country, we're going in that direction. It's really dangerous. And people like Nigel Farage and the Conservative Party with Kemi will distract us by talking um, about immigration and refugee boats and things like that, and they will not discuss the real challenge that our country faces, which is the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few individuals. We talk about the top 1%. It's going to start being the top 0.1%, and before we know that, it's going to be the top 0.01%. So we have to start acting now and making sure that that power and that wealth is distributed through our economy.
But the thing is, how do we do that as a country? What steps do we need to take in order to get there? In order to make sure that wealth is distributed fairly across the classes, not just hoarded in the top 1%, like you've said.
So I think to me, there's three kind of strands of work, two or three, depending on how you break it up. So number one, there needs to be some kind of wealth tax, right? Now, will this wealth tax raise hundreds of billions of pounds instantly? No. But in the 50s and 60s, America had a 90% top rate of of taxation. right? The reason that these taxes are effective is not because it people in those brackets will necessarily pay those levels of taxes, but it forces people to spend money so that they don't necessarily get to those brackets, which means money disperses out. So if you can, tax assets and ensure that those, individuals who, okay, they might not have the cash to pay the tax, great, they can sell it. They can sell those assets. They go back into the economy, brings money back through the economy. All right, amazing. And we have a very big, aristocracy in this country, old money, basically, who have millions and billions of pounds in assets, but they don't necessarily have the cash to pay for it. Great, please sell those assets so that they can come back into our economy and be useful assets. Um, Number two, we need renationalization of vital public resources, so like rail, water, etc., because they are just net drains on our economy. What we've done is these lines haven't been updated, waterworks haven't been done for years, and we keep bailing out these private companies who, instead of using the profits they make to fix the water and upgrade lines and upgrade our trains, have just given it to private shareholders. And water is the most egregious example of that. And then the third and really most important thing is we need to start reinvesting in state assets. Margaret Thatcher sold our homes, right? And I know there are hundreds of thousands of people around this country who benefited from the right to buy scheme, but it had devastating impacts on our nation because it made homes an asset. It no longer made homes what they're meant to be, which is a place for people to live. Homes should be a personal thing where people live, not an asset for the richest to trade, etc. Um, and the more and like, I think the biggest businesses in our country, or the biggest business class, and Navarra did an interesting report on this recently, is being a landlord, right? It's the biggest
Mhm.
business in our country. That should not be okay. If it's going to be a business, might be a need for some level of landlordism for like student accommodation and places like London where people move in and out of. But this shouldn't be whole multi-billion, industry, which is the best way to gain wealth in this country. And everyone knows, right? Especially those from working class backgrounds, the aspiration is to own your house and then own a house to rent. Why? Because they know that's a way to wealth. They know it's an easy wealth tool. And unfortunately, this is, something we need to push back against. But really, and this is not to say all landlords are terrible human beings. I'm not making a moral judgment on landlords. I'm making a judgment on the industry of housing, and say that we need to make return to a situation where housing is is bought for people to live in, not as an investment, not as a way to build wealth, but for people to live. And then we can start investing money in our and then people can start using their money to build tech companies and AI companies that are needed in our country and our economy. Absolutely, but as long as we keep tying people's money up in buying more and more property, we're going to continue to have an unproductive economy. And in my very simple, and this is a very simplistic explanation, those three pillars will rebuild Britain and redistribute wealth throughout this country.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if we can do that, and do you think that is something that we will see happen, whether it is in this particular Labour government, not holding my breath for that, or whether it is a potential policy change in future governments? Because for me, it seems to be that we're moving towards having Britain be the sort of lapdog of the US and be a safe haven for people for large businesses and muggles to dodge their tax paying. So when can we see that happen?
I don't think we're going to see that happen anytime soon. Um, but there will come a point where it needs to happen because we cannot continue down this path. It's extremely dangerous, and we can't continue to allow extraction of wealth from the middle class towards the wealthiest in society. It's simply not sustainable. We live in a country where nurses end up going to food banks.
Hmm.
There was a time where it was an aspirational job to be a nurse, and it still is for many people because people care about people and they want to serve, right? So they aspire to be a nurse. But it was an aspirational lower middle class job where people are like, I can set up a good life for myself and my kids if I become a nurse. That's no longer the case, right? Or there are loads of jobs which should provide for families, and instead people are struggling to get by.
Hmm.
Um, and we need to, if we don't take this seriously, if we don't take this as a crisis, then it's going to continue. And I think Zach Polanski is on the money when he focuses so much on it. I think Zoran Mambani in New York is on the money when he focuses so much on it. And I think this new party, if it wants to be a serious party, needs to be centered, focused, really focus on this cost of living, really focus on this inequality, because out of it spills many issues like this. This genocide in Gaza is directly linked to the fact that America, uh, and to a and part of that, the less extent Britain, is so captured by this kind of war machine that the lobbyists keep lobbying for more war, and they need to find more and more war because they need to carry on selling weapons. They need to carry on selling bombs so that they can, make more and more profit and extract more and more money out of the American system. Like this billions of aid that America give, and I know this is not about the UK, but it's a slight diversion. There's billions of aid America gives to Israel every year is actually conditional, most of it, that it goes back to spending on bombs bought from America. So what you're seeing is Americans taxed, the money given to Israel so that Israel can give it back to American billionaires and billionaires. This is not this is just like money laundering. I don't know what you describe it as. This is absolute insanity, and we see this um, throughout the world, right? And we can't continuing to allow it to happen. So it might take us 5 years, it might take us 10 years, it might take us 50 years, but we will work, Muslim vote alongside many others, to continue building a movement which can challenge these inequalities and make Britain and make the Western world nations that work for everyone again.
I mean, exactly like you said at the very end, it takes a movement. It's from the bottom, and that's how we only see change. It's when individuals start taking seriously who they vote for and making sure that they apply pressure. And I think that's what I really like about Zach, is that he's very visionary. I think that's the one complaint about this new Labour government. They have no clear direction. They have and stand for nothing. There's no particular vision. There's no one thing that they are leading this country towards other than utter ruin. So yeah, I'm looking forward to at least working together on the very bottom as a movement to make change.
Yeah. And I think that's all for this week. I do try to keep it to half an hour. I do hope you guys at least got some valuable information from my rants. Um, but as angry as we are, we need to turn that anger into action. There are people who are going to be protesting the arrival of Isaac Herzog. There are people who are protesting, and I'm really sorry to the organizer of this, I missed their message. But there's an arms fair happening in London this week, and I think it's today or tomorrow. And some brilliant people have come out to organize against that. Because remember, Britain's not only arming the genocide in Gaza, but is also arming the UAE as it funds the RSF to mass murder individuals in Sudan. And I'm sure there's plenty of other atrocities that the arms trade have supplied and supported throughout the year. And we need to carry on turning into action. And the people who resisted the prescription of Palestine action and continue to do so. Um, you know, we should stand by and we should support them. And continuously to put pressure on the state that we change this. And inshallah, and with organizing and with prayer and with persistence, we will see a better future in this country. We will see a turning of the tide, um, and we will see a better future for our whole nation. And for the world, and I truly do believe that. So don't think my anger as mistaken for hopelessness. We will continue to organize, and like I said last time, leave us any comments, send us any messages, reach out to us on admin@themuslimvote.co.uk or on our website. And we want to work with people all across the country. to ensure that there's MPs and a parliament that represents them and represents the interests of the British people. Assalamu alaikum.